Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're going back in time, exploring the life of Bābur, the founder of the Mughal Empire.
Ah, yes,
It's
Bābur.
like trying to fit all those battles, the poems he wrote, the whole empire he built into like a single picture.
It is quite the challenge.
It is.
Especially since his life was, anything but normal.
Right.
I mean, just imagine being born in 1483 and then boom, you're inheriting your dad's throne at 11 years old.
11, seriously, 11 years old, that's like barely enough time to learn, long division, let alone run an entire kingdom.
It's really hard to grasp the impact that must have on him, shaping his personality.
Yeah, how could it not?
And on top of all that, he's a direct descendant of not one, but two legendary conquerors, Genghis Khan and Tamerlane.
Wow, talk about feeling the pressure.
Right.
It's like destiny had big plans for this kid.
And those plans seem to revolve around Samarkand,
Samarkand.
the gem of his ancestors, a city steeped in history.
Right.
Bābur actually captured it for the first time at 14, only to lose it a few months later.
Oh.
This really set the stage for years of struggle against these rival Uzbek forces.
It's amazing how that early experience with both winning and losing shaped him.
Oh, absolutely.
It's almost a reflection of his whole life, like big ambitions, setbacks, and that refusal to just give up.
Exactly, and that ambition wouldn't be contained.
Right.
Despite constant challenges from this Uzbek leader, Shabani Khan, he kept trying to recapture Samarkand.
Over and over.
Yeah, it was a period of intense conflict and maneuvering,
Yeah.
a real testament to his determination.
But even when he had to flee Central Asia, it wasn't just a retreat.
No.
He was strategic about it, shifting his focus to Kabul in 1504.
That was a crucial move.
It was.
He ruled Kabul for over 20 years,
Right.
Not just as a safe haven, but as a base to rebuild and watch for the right moment to expand his empire.
He was playing the long game.
Definitely.
So then in 1525, he gets this invitation from Daulat Khan Lodi, a rival of the Sultan of Delhi, to invade India.
Quite the turn of events. Did Bābur see this as his chance to finally achieve his ambitions on a grander scale?
You have to wonder.
It was definitely a calculated risk, but one he was willing to take.
Right.
He saw the weaknesses in the Lodi dynasty and sensed an opportunity to establish a brand new empire in India.
So he crosses the Indus River with his army and sets the stage for the first Battle of Panipat in 1526.
That's right.
What a story.
It is.
We're talking about a classic underdog tale.
Oh, totally.
The Lodi army was huge, dwarfing Bābur's forces.
They were, but Bābur had a secret weapon.
Gunpowder.
Gunpowder, exactly. It was already being used in other places, but relatively new to India.
Right.
He understood its power and used cannons and innovative military formations like the Tuluma.
I've heard of the Tuluma.
It divided his forces into front, center, and rear units,
Okay.
giving him flexibility and concentrated firepower.
Could you imagine the impact of this technology on the battlefield back then?
It must have been a shock to the Lodi army. It was a decisive victory for Bābur, marking the birth of the Mughal Empire.
But winning Panipat was just the start.
Oh, yeah, the real challenge was consolidating his rule over this vast and diverse new territory.
So Panipat was a turning point, but it also launched a whole new chapter full of its own challenges and triumphs.
Exactly.
Right. We left off with Bābur's incredible victory at Panipat.
A victory that really set the stage for the Mughal Empire.
But conquering a place like India is one thing, ruling it is a whole other challenge.
Right.
So how did Bābur approach this huge task?
Well, that's where we see his strategic thinking.
Right.
And his understanding that true power isn't just about military strength.
Yep.
He knew he had to blend his Central Asian heritage with the existing Indian culture.
So it wasn't just about taking over, it was about creating something new.
Exactly.
What were some of the key things he did to make this happen?
Well, first off, the introduction of gunpowder and those advanced military tactics like the Tuluma formation.
Right, the Tuluma.
Yeah, that had a huge lasting impact on warfare in India.
Like a total game changer.
It really was. But beyond the battlefield, Bābur was also a big supporter of the arts. He really loved beauty.
Interesting.
He actively promoted Persian culture, which influenced Mughal art, architecture, even language.
So we're seeing the roots of the Mughal artistic legacy taking shape right here.
Exactly. And his love for gardens, like the Bābur Gardens in Kabul is another example.
I've seen pictures of those gardens. They're amazing.
They're incredible, aren't they? They weren't just about looks, though.
Okay.
They reflected his Persian heritage and his personal connection to nature.
It's almost like they're a physical representation of his personality.
Yeah, a testament to his appreciation for beauty and his desire to create peaceful spaces amidst all the chaos of building an empire.
Then there's his autobiography, the Bāburnāma.
Oh, yes, written in Chagatai Turkic, the language of his ancestors.
It's amazing that we have this firsthand account of his thoughts and experiences.
It's an incredible resource.
Earlier you mentioned the Bāburnāma is more than just a typical historical record.
Oh, it is.
What makes it so unique and valuable to historians?
Well, Babur's honesty and his detailed observations.
Okay.
He doesn't shy away from describing his failures, his doubts, even his personal opinions about India and its people.
Interesting.
Like, he was amazed by the diversity of the land, the different cultures and languages, the unique plants and animals.
It sounds like he was really curious about his new surroundings.
He was.
It's like we can travel back in time and see 16th century India through his eyes.
Exactly. His reflections on Indian customs, the climate, even the people he met offer such a valuable historical perspective.
It's clear that Bābur was a multifaceted person, a warrior, a ruler, an artist, and a keen observer of his world.
Definitely. But sadly, his time in India was cut short.
He died in 1530 at just 47 years old.
Far too young.
But even in that short time, he established the foundation for one of the most influential dynasties in Indian history.
He did, and his legacy continued through his descendants, especially his grandson, Akbar the Great.
Akbar took the throne at 13, just like Bābur.
That's right. It's almost like history was repeating itself.
It is fascinating.
Akbar expanded the Mughal Empire significantly. He's considered by many to be the greatest of the Mughal emperors.
He really built on what Bābur started.
He inherited not just an empire, but a vision for a powerful and culturally rich dynasty.
It's incredible to think about how much Bābur achieved in his 47 years.
It really is.
He went from being a young boy thrown onto a throne to conquering vast territories, establishing a new empire, and leaving a legacy that still fascinates us today.
His story is a testament to ambition, adaptability, and the power of cultural fusion.
He didn't just conquer, he created.
Right, and that creative spirit is reflected in the art, architecture, and culture of the Mughal Empire that thrived for centuries after him.
He reminds us that history is about more than just dates and battles.
Yeah.
It's about the people who shaped those events.
Yeah.
People like Bābur, whose story still captivates and inspires us.
Definitely. But as with any historical figure, we have to acknowledge that there are different views on his legacy. Some argue that his invasions caused disruption and displacement, leading to Meiji changes in the existing power structures.
It's important to consider the full impact of his actions, both positive and negative.
Absolutely. History is complex, rarely black and white.
There are always multiple perspectives to consider.
Right. And as we continue exploring Bābur's story, it's crucial to keep this nuanced view in mind.
We've talked about Bābur's incredible journey, all his successes, his passions, and his vision for this new empire in India. But as we look closer at his rule, we also got to consider, the obstacles he faced.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Trying to unite a place like 16th century India with all its different kingdoms and cultures and ambitions, it was a constant balancing act.
Right.
He was always navigating these complex alliances, putting down rebellions, and asserting his authority over potential rivals,
He might have been a brilliant military strategist, but ruling this new empire needed a whole different set of skills.
Exactly.
So how did he go about consolidating his power? What were some of the key things he did?
Well, one of his first moves was to reach out to the Rajput rulers. They were pretty powerful in northern India,
Right, the Rajputs.
Yeah, he tried to form alliances through diplomacy, even marriage.
Interesting.
He realized that strategic partnerships could really strengthen his position. But as we saw with the Battle of Kanwa against Ranasanga, not all the Rajputs were on board with Mughal rule.
That must have been a pivotal moment for Bābur.
Oh.
Winning that battle really solidified his control over North India.
But it also showed the resistance he was still facing.
Yeah. It proved that military victories were just one part of the equation. Real stability needed more than just force.
So besides military power, what else did he use to solidify his grip?
Well, Bābur put in place administrative reforms based on the Persian system of government.
Okay.
This system was all about a clear hierarchy with defined lines of authority, which helped streamline administration and tax collection. He also standardized weights and measures, which boosted trade and the economy.
So these changes weren't just about control, they were about creating a foundation for a successful empire. Exactly, and these weren't just temporary fixes either.
Right.
They had a lasting impact, laying the groundwork that Bābur's successors like Akbar would build on during the Mughal Empire's golden age.
It's interesting how those administrative details get overlooked when we talk about empires, but they're super important for long-term stability and bringing together a diverse population.
Absolutely there.
So Bābur's legacy goes way beyond just military victories. He was a builder, an administrator, a visionary leader who set the stage for a dynasty that would rule India for centuries. He brought his own cultural influences, his Persian heritage, his love for art and gardens, and blended them with the existing Indian landscape.
His reign was a true fusion of cultures, showing his understanding that real power comes not just from conquering, but from integrating and adapting.
It's a great reminder that history is shaped by people with complex motivations, ambitions, and legacies. And while Babur's story is full of amazing accomplishments, it also encourages us to look deeper, to examine the nuances and the different perspectives that make history so captivating.
As we wrap up our deep dive into Babur's life, we hope you've gained a better understanding of this fascinating and complex figure. He was a warrior, a poet, a gardener, and an empire builder. But maybe his most enduring legacy is the Mughal Empire itself, which still influences how we understand Indian history and culture even today.
We encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning the stories you hear, and always strive for a deeper understanding of the people who shaped our world. Until next time, keep those minds engaged.